Well, hello, gentlemen, and welcome to a bit of reminiscing tonight, where we're going to have a look back at the great day, which was, have a guess how many days ago was did we win the 97 Premiership?
Whoa.
Who wants to have a guess?
5,000.
6,000.
Oh, yeah.
6,000.
Actually, 8,257 days ago, we took the glory. And I reckon that's about how many times people have mentioned your mark since then, Rowe. So we might have a bit of a look at that later.
Yeah,
nice. But it's,
and we've had about 8,000 of those.
well, just talking about those, look at that. We're all pretty handy here. If the Cooper's going here. What do you got there, Rowe? You having a wine there?
Well, that's Brody's in lockdown, isolation, no alcohol week.
What have we got
No,
there?
I've got some
Barossa boys.
supplies here.
That's the Barossa boy.
What a coincidence.
Barossa boy, and aptly named Double Trouble on the back because I've got twins. Right?
And we got
that,
Rowe
so
in jars together. They are double
We'll just-
trouble.
we'll just get one going here for Joseph.
Cheers.
Now, Joey.
Thanks, fellas.
I'll have a Cooper's. That's beautiful. So we're all set to have a look back at the 97 Premiership. And so first of all, I better do some introductions. So welcome number 10 on the day, Andrew Jarman, which actually you started as number 2, didn't you, Jars, way back?
I can't recall. I can't recall, Damien, but I just wanted to. I was thinking of I'm sorry. I was thinking of Damien Obbs and James Tyson, my 2 wingmen, who made me in '97. They were the speed. They were magnificent. Those 2 boys.
Yeah, they were. They were fantastic on the day, and we'll get Roadie's insight on the team and the lineup in a little bit. But in the year, Jars, McGarry medal, State Guernsey, most kicks and handballs, and the shiniest head award. What a year!
It was a fabulous year, and it was one of the most enjoyable years I did have playing in the SANFL competition, knowing that Port Adelaide had joined the comp start of '97. Norwood, a very proud football club, and obviously I got there in 1990 when Neil Balme was the senior coach, and then obviously when the Crows formed in '91. I vowed to Wally Miller and Gary McIntosh that one day if I come back, hopefully we can win a premiership, and '97 was just marvellous and well coached and just a great bunch of lads and determined to win a flag after 13 years of not winning one.
That's right, 13 long years. And on your left there, our right, although assume you never know, it's the other way around. We've got Steve. Hey, what's that? There he is, number 3, Stephen Rowe. State Guernsey as well that year, Rowie. Mark of the Century.
Yes.
Which we're about to see. And I believe that was the start of the radio career in '97. Is that right?
Well, let's get it right. I was as high as this Cooper's can. not a second. I was as high as that Cooper's can.
On his shoulders.
But I was definitely high. Who was the Port Supporters League?
Who was the poor Port Adelaide bloke he was on his shoulders with?
Clayton.
Who was it?
JC.
He's never been back.
I put it up for Rowe.
Yeah, JC was breaking down the wing.
Yeah.
The Jack Odie medalist.
Yes, sir.
He had 18 bounces, dodged 15 players.
Chasing him, yeah.
I had enough time to say, sit it up, JC. And JC did. And he set it up in happy days. The rest is history. Greatest mark on that oval.
It's party time.
Would you guys like to see a photo of Rowe afterwards? I'm in my lounge room. If you look here,
Oh, there we go.
I'm not sure you can see it or not, but there's a photo of Rowe on the ground afterwards.
There.
With a smile on his face.
With a Lenny Patrick, who can't believe it.
That's part of a collage my wife put together after.
Right. Beautiful.
See, all too often I look over that wall and see that smiling face.
Brody, Can you spell collage? Is that even a word?
Before I just
Collage.
let you two loose, because I know you'll just cut loose tonight, let me just do the round the ground. So we'll bring in JC, Johnny Cunningham, who famously did his knee in the first or second practice match in '97 and then made it back for the grand final. Didn't just make it back, came back and won the Foss Williams medal for best on ground. Jack Odie.
Yeah, right.
James Tyson won the Foss Williams in the state game. Best on ground in the grand final and absolutely best on ground for the month after. Is that right, JC?
Yeah, I was fairly fresh, Dale. I'd been very disciplined in my comeback training, so come the celebrations, I certainly was ready to have a good time. Yep. I was single at the time, so that helped.
Well, I only know you were best on ground the month after because I was out with you every night. But and then let's bring in the coach who I've invited just to take control, because I know Jarman and Rowe will just be out of control before we know it. So Peter Rowe, Coach of the Year, second year coach at Norwood, brings Norwood a premiership after 13 long years. Must have felt good, Rhodey.
It certainly did. It was a bit of a relief, I'd have to say. It was a long year after '96 when we had the heartbreak of the prelim final, but we had a extraordinary year in lots of ways. I think we won 17 out of 20 home and away games, and we got beaten in the second semi, so that caused a bit of a heart flutter. But I think we thought were pretty good things coming into the grand final, and as it turns out, some of these boys here on the screen helped us out, and we had a very good day. Yeah,
absolutely, and. Well, that brings me to my right here. We've got Joey Marciano, the media manager at Norwood Football Club, who just said he wanted to be part of this. And I was also really worried that I wouldn't be able to control the Zoom the way it needs to be controlled. So I thought, Joe, you can join me just in case. So welcome, Joe. How old do you reckon Joe was on this day?
4.
3.
3.
Yeah. So it makes you feel old, doesn't it? But, and then, of course, myself, who many argue should have got your medal, Johnny. We might talk about that a little bit longer.
If they gave it out at half time.
No, well deserved. I think a few of us could have won the medal on that day. Also got a state Guernsey in the year, and I think there were 9 of us that played state footy that year, so it was a pretty good year for Norwood. Unfortunately, the Magoos got pipped at the line just before we came out. Otherwise, it would have been the clean sweep. It would have been reserves, seniors, and of course the best performed club across the season. McGarry medal, Jack Odie medal, Foz Williams medal, Coach of the Year. What more do you want? What a year! Let's talk about it. So, start off with, I'm going to throw to you, Johnny Cunningham. I want you to tell me your greatest memory of the day.
There's so many great memories. I just think because of the Port Adelaide history, and there was certainly in South Australia at the time there was this sort of feeling that Port were never beaten in any final or grand final, and to sort of get to a point. I just remember there was a point in the last quarter where we all felt they're not going to beat us now. We are so far in front, it's not funny. And at that night, that it was just a feeling that all that stress of worrying about Port knocking us off and not being able to get over Port and all that sort of, because Norwood hadn't won since '84. I just think that was the most memorable part where it must have been sort of halfway through the last quarter where we just thought, yeah, we've got this, there's no way they're coming back from this now. And that was, to me, was probably not so much an incident or something that happened in the game. It was just the feeling of that, excitement of life that, we've done it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's about the time David Walk, the runner, was running out and taking happy snaps of everyone, wasn't he, with a little Polaroid camera. And we said, next time you come out with the water bottle, put a bit of bourbon in it, will you? We've got this. It's time to start. Jars, what about yourself? And we'll show a few clips of you In fact, one where you gave Borlase a nice clip behind the ears just at the beginning of the game. But what was your single greatest memory of the day?
Todd Davies' attack on the ball against Simon Tregenza typifies the day, but also the year we had. We were a very determined group. We weren't going to let it go, and obviously Pete was right. The 96 prelim was guttering, but I thought the way that Toddy Davey and the way he played, I've just got a lot of admiration for that young man and his attack on the ball. We saw him get stretchered, his head split open, and he set the scene because we obviously lost our club captain in Macca the week before, where he sacrificed his game. Because that prelim against bloody Centrals, that was, even though we won by 11 points, that was nerve-wracking. We could have gone either way, but, Macca changed that momentum of that game, and I'll never forget that. I can still see what Macca did for the boys and the club to get us into a grand final. But, Toddy Davies' attack on the ball was something I'll never forget.
Oh, absolutely, mate. In fact, do you remember who Macca actually belted? Became a pretty good player for Port Power and Hawthorn. Stewie Jew. He certainly was getting the better of us, and Macca thought, well, might have to bring a bit of old school footy back and sort you out.
Yeah, and he did, and that's typical Macca's DNA, selfless.
Absolutely. Rowe, now, apart from the greatest mark of the century behind Jezza, what was your favourite moment on the day?
I think when the siren went, it was the first game ever that I'd played for Nord in all those years that my entire family was there. My uncle, who got me to Nord, whose company did the audit for the Nord Football Club for a zillion years, born and bred Nord, he was in hospital. So there was a bit of emotion around that. We didn't know whether he was going to survive or not. So I had all that sitting in the back line. I did my ankle in the last game of the year. Tried my guts out to play in the finals, didn't. And in the Centrals reserves game, I think I probably might have done enough to get through, but I knew I wouldn't be in that team. There's no way I should be in the team. I hadn't been in the team for the finals. And then Macca got injured. Macca got reported. And it was a real emotional week for me because he's one of my dearest mates. I still fish with him. I lived with him for years. To think that one of the blokes that I wanted to play with in my whole life was going to miss that game, and it took us so long to get to that game. And then for him not to be in that game, and then for Rhodey to pick me in that game, it was it was an unbelievable roller coaster emotionally for me. Started on the bench and played. So when that siren went, it wasn't until that siren went, I immediately ran to Macca and I hugged him and I was crying. I don't know why. And I just said to Macca, sorry. And I know we can't swear. Can you imagine the word that came out of his mouth? Get F, we've just won the flag. He didn't care. The Nord Football Club won that flag. Whether he was there or not, it didn't matter. And it was just unbelievable. I mean, he's the most selfless bloke. So I have all these emotions running through. I can't even remember the game. And it wasn't until that siren went, I thought, you know what? We've bloody done it.
Yeah.
And it was just, that was bloody emotional, I must say.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, Macca certainly always put the team first. And we might throw to Rhodey, just get a little bit of insight into leading it into the game and the selection of Rowe. And also, obviously, the Paul McCormack knee in the week before, did his knee, missed out. Ian Downsborough was injured, and we've just heard about Macca. So it was a pretty tough week at the selection table with Rhodey.
Yeah, there was certainly a few challenges. There was, we suspected we weren't going to have Macca all week, but people forget that was the first time there was ever trial by video in the SANFL. And Macca didn't actually get reported on the day. It was a punch that only travelled about 10 centimetres. He was actually put up by the commission for the first time ever. And it was also the year that one of the Swans players in the AFL the week before had brought in a court injunction and played in the grand final. So we had a queue of lawyers, because Norwood are well known for their legal representation, queued up to go to court to get Macca an injunction so he could play in the grand final. And Macca, to his eternal credit, said, no, I don't want to play through the courts. I did the crime, I'll do the time. He didn't back away from the fact it was a pretty well-planned punch, and he didn't want to end up in the courts. He didn't want to end up, everyone getting distracted all week. And he said, "Bugger it, we're not going down the court path. I'll try my luck at the tribunal. If I get suspended, I'll get suspended." And probably deep down he knew his mate Rowe, he'd probably get a game. So everything you said about selfish and everything else was totally true. And Macca didn't believe in getting out on the ground through a legal loophole, because we could have easily got it put off for a week, and then he would have been found guilty and given 4 weeks probably afterwards. But he said, "No, we're not going down that path. I'll take my chances," which he did. He got given a week, and the rest is history. The most memorable time for me, going back to your last question, was about 5 minutes before the end of the game, and I did have Macca and Paul McCormack in the coach's box. Well, you can imagine what those two are like in the coach's box. It's like having the cheer squad. I already had Claves and Aishi in the coach's box with me. So I spent a fair bit of the game trying to keep the cheer squad quiet. But Macca said to Paul McCormack at about the 20-minute mark of the last quarter, because, of course, Paul McCormack was on crutches, so he just had his operation. Macca said, "I think it's about time we headed down, brother." And he jumped up and left. And that was about when I thought, yep, we're going to win this for sure. And, Macca and Ruth, the coaches to the boundary line, to a standing ovation in the crowd, which was probably the first time for the game I thought, shit, we're going to win this from here. And the last probably 5 minutes of the game after that was certainly very, very enjoyable. It was the one time you sit back and savour the moment.
Absolutely. I think there's nothing better than the last quarter in a grand final when you know you got it in the bag, and you start seeing party tricks like Rowe's mark, Roger James somehow making 2 Port Adelaide players turn and run away from him by balking and then putting it through the sticks, which we'll have a look at. But why don't we just start off by looking at the first bounce, and then shortly after that, Jarman, you started to assert yourself on the game. You might remember the moment. Let's have a look at it, and then we'll get your comment. Over to you, Joey. Do your thing.
Third grand final, he did 92 and 95. Ron Bettridge for his first, and Derek Woodcock for his first grand final. So well done to the men in white as we prepare for the opening bounce of the 1997 SANFL Grand Final. It's Port Adelaide and Norwood. Stay with us around Australia for the biggest match of the South Australian year. It's Keating in ruck from the right, Chalmers in ruck, the Port Adelaide champion who also double teams with the Crows. Chalmers.
Fleming. Very much underrated player, Fleming, and a very handy inclusion from the second semi-final for Norwood.
Jarman, he took a swipe at ball lazy. The umpire saw it. Now what's happening here? He's going to take the kick off him for sure. And will he report him? No, he gives him a warning and doesn't take the ball off him. So even though it didn't connect, the umpire getting on the job early and giving him a warning.
There you go. Jazz.
You missed him.
Well, talk us through it.
I'm glad I didn't hit him, because we probably would have turned the ball over. And you know what Port Adelaide like? They sniff any opportunity. Look, he had a job to do, and I said to him, don't hold the jumper, because they try and hold your jumper around the stoppages, and I said, don't hold my jumper, mate. That's not. Anyway, he did it again. I said, next time you do that, I'll whack you as hard as I can. And then obviously I took that mark, and I could feel him behind me, and I just threw my arm around and missed him by a bee's dick. I thought I whacked him on the nose, but I said to him after, mate, come on, if you want to do that, that's fine, but just don't hold. I had a real issue with that. End of the day. But I'm glad I didn't connect, because if I did, it would have been a turnover, and you just never know. You know what Port are like. But I thought it was undisciplined, gentlemen.
I would have taken you off.
It didn't really matter. I mean, it was every chance of being your last game, Jazz. So, wouldn't have mattered, would it, if you gave him a fair old whack?
We'll start the first quarter anyway. So
yeah. So I debated this all day. I thought, do we wait to the end, or do we get Rowe up and about early? Let's get you up and about early, Rowe. Roll the tape, Joey. Let's have a look at the mark.
Here we go.
Oh, look out.
Brown, Smith, that's Rowan Smith for the Maggies, comes out, finds Geneva, who's been everywhere this afternoon, tried hard, had 21 kicks, 10 handballs, 31 possessions, 7 marks.
Look at this.
It's come back in again, Rowe from behind!
Won't he love that, Rowe?
Well,
Look at that. Look at the smile.
when he retells that tonight, it'll be 3 stories high. He actually took that one on top of the goalpost. That one sat on top of the goalpost and brought it down. Well, that's so the legend goes. And Peter Rowe liked that one too. Good on you, Rhodey. Then Ross are behind, and Gary McIntosh looks on happily, but I'm sure he's a shattered man, missing this spectacular moment.
Stephen Rowe. Ambrose maybe a little bit too close. The umpire just warning him.
No, he wouldn't be hung in the limelight, would he?
He wouldn't.
Not much. Radio personality, raconteur, and goal kicker.
Rowe. It's only his 6th kick for the afternoon. It's his first goal, but look at the players. They appreciate the work that he's done this year. He got them to where they are. Sensational start to the season, Ken Sheldon, by...
Yeah, Rowe.
As high as 4 cans?
Probably not prepared for this, because I'm not sure you've ever spoken about this, Mark, but have a go anyway, mate. Talk us through it.
Oh, well, JC put it up, and you might see when I hit the ground, I hit it with a thud because I was so high. But anyway, I made a divot in the grass. It's still there. Clayton was into me for the whole last quarter, and I said to him, mate, I'm going to take a scream on your back. No, I didn't say that. James West, Jimmy, and God love Jimmy West.
He kicked 80 goals.
God love Jimmy West. He was in front of me for a crumb, which was unusual.
Yeah.
And he said to Clayton, Clayton, you'd have to be the unluckiest bloke in the history of football.
Yeah.
Rowe's never taken an overhead mark in his life.
Yeah.
And when you saw me smile, that was because of that comment.
Brilliant.
But, oh, well, you know what?
Inspirational.
Even a blind squirrel trips over a nut every now and then.
I was down at full-back, mate. I could see your pearly whites from there. That's why it was that big. But, look...
we got to put us 73 points up. Sorry about that.
It was a fantastic moment. Now, Johnny, you had a fair day, didn't you?
What is that footy?
Yeah, footy, leather poisoning, 30-odd touches, the medal. We thought we'd just get you out of the way and show you your highlights, mate. We've got a few to...
We'll go for an hour.
Well, we cut them back.
Look at the precision delivery. It's Cunningham. He takes off the little rover, the best and fairest last year. Look at the kick. It's a ripper. It's found Bassett. 20 out, slight angle. Been very strong. Pitt run down by Bond. Bond's pace important there. To half forward, Harvey clever to Eastor. The big ruckman is running, and that's ominous for the Magpies. Pushing and shoving in the goal scoreless for Cunningham. He's good at this. He's very good at this. Oh, hasn't he kicked some important goals in the finals, this young fella? That's his first, but his finishing in the finals has been fantastic.
He's playing an outstanding Rovers game. Brilliant quick hands by Harvey to Eastor. The long kick in, and look at that, where good Rovers should be, to the front and square of the pack, able to snare upon the loose ball, crumbed it brilliantly, and then finished with, well, an excellent left foot snap. Look at that, just dropped it across his body. Brilliant skills.
Big Pascoe and Ambrose will contest the ball in. Coming in late was Treadray, couldn't quite time it. Jarman takes it, kicks it forward. Again, Carter plays on. The umpire's called it. Holding the ball, umpire. He's played on. The support's there. Cunningham! Oh. Cunningham! Johnny Cunningham. It's his second goal for the quarter. 16 kicks so far in the game, and really has come back to fine form.
Looming as
grand final day.
Looming as one of the best, Ken.
Oh, no doubt. And just Carter there, indecisive, in two minds, and was forced to the ground by Malloy. Cunningham just there to mop it up.
Well, his father, we mentioned, played in the 61 Premiership for Hawthorn. 343-4610 to purchase your copy of this 1997 grand final. All gone up. Great courage shown by Cunningham, running with the flow of the football. So Cunningham, outside of 50, will put it to the top of the square. He handballs it back again to the ruckman. He did that earlier and he got caught. Well, it nearly worked, didn't it? Cunningham misses. I thought he was going to do something extraordinary. He's already kicked 2 goals.
Out of the ruck contest, swings one forward, but it's Bowman who has been a rock of Gibraltar at centre half back. Cunningham, who really has knocked up getting kicks and has stamped himself as a quality player. 24 for him this afternoon, this young fellow, in a starring role for the Redlegs. Pascal.
There you go. Well, Johnny, you're right. We probably only showed about a tenth of your touches for the day, mate. So over to you. I mean, it's not like you're going to find it hard to talk about yourself, so go for it.
Well, it was interesting, Rowe talking about selection. You know, we had a fairly heated selection discussion when I was given the green light to come back from my reconstruction. And Rhodey would probably remember it. We had a fairly full committee meeting with, and the argument was about whether I could actually come back and play at all. You know, so given there was already selection headaches as it was with the reserve team was quite strong, and you know, Rowe was in the wings and coming back from injury, so you know, it was quite an interesting 5 weeks of you know, getting back into the reserves for a couple of weeks and being able to play a couple of games there, and then the sort of pressure of being selected in the A grade team. Because I certainly wasn't there to just make up the numbers, and I don't think I would have ever been selected just to, you know, do me a favour and get a game. I certainly got selected on the basis of that I had to, you know, certainly contribute fairly strongly. So yeah, so grand final day was culmination of a lot of stuff going on in the background, and Rhodey certainly supported the decision to select me, and it was nice to be able to back him up and perform on the day. And I remember, Rhodey never remembers, but we sort of knew the Jars was going to be heavily tagged by ball ace, which was the case, and Jars was sort of going to pretend to sort of follow Ginniver a bit, which meant that I was meant to get off the chain and so to speak, and be quite attacking. So that's how it sort of did pan out a bit. I don't think Port sort of saw me as being a complete threat. They certainly put a lot of time into Dodgy Tyson on the wing, and you know, Brett James and those sort of players. And so I was sort of a little bit under the radar. So I can honestly say I've never had as much freedom as that on that day as I did for the rest of my career. But at least on 97, I was able to run around and have an effect on the game, which was great.
If they had 6 taggers, they wouldn't have had enough to close down our midfield. I mean, we had probably 10 blokes that would, on any other day, any other team, get tagged. So we certainly had them there. We had them in the ruck because they went down with an injury early to Chalmers, and we had 2 ruckmen, and one of them was Aaron Keating, who'd played in the Crows Premiership the week before, and also Brett James had done the same, Rhodey. So not only did you have to think about the you know, selection of Johnny, of Rowe, you had to think about bringing back 2 blokes who you could argue or could excuse for having a bit of a celebration for a few days after winning the first Crows Premiership. So you had a lot to think about that week. And what sort of you know, process did you go through to finalise the side and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, we had a few decisions to make, because obviously Ian Downs were getting injured and Keats being available. I mean, Keats probably hadn't ripped it when he was playing for Norwood during that year. Eastie was our number 1 ruckman for most of the season. We did, however, we did do 2 things. First of all, we only played 1 ruck in the second semi, and Eastie did his ankle early in that game, and we ended up playing without a ruckman really for a lot of that match. So we were determined to play 2. And then the other thing we did was, when the Crows won the Premiership, we put Brett James in charge of tagging Keats for the next three or four nights. So I think James did a pretty good job of keeping Keats on the straight and narrow. So as it turns out, having 2 rucks was the fact that you know, we had a pretty dominant group of players in there, but if we couldn't get a hand on the ball, we're going to be in a lot of strife. And yeah, just to make things even better for us, Chambers got injured very early on, and I think they ended up rucking Warren Treadray a lot of the game, because they went in They went in with only 1 ruck in the grand final versus 2 in the second semi, and we did it the other way around. So as it turns out, it was a bit of good luck our way. But Keats, probably didn't dominate the game, but he certainly. We always thought he set a bit of a standard with the way he competed. And Eastie was there to sort of mop up and probably help out around the ground. So they were a good combination.
Yeah, well, you could argue we had 3 ruckmen because obviously Lenny Pascoe was out there as well. So. When you look at it, we were pretty tall, but we also, I reckon, we were a lot quicker around the ground than they as well. So turned out well for us. But what we might do is just show a little bit of Andrew Jarman magic. And we've got a few highlights of yours, Jars. We might have a quick look at those.
Catch that.
Best game, I believe, fortnight ago in the second semi-final. Doing a serviceable job. This is all.
Going onto the ground will be Simon Eastor, and leaving again is Aaron Keating. What about that for some class?
Yeah, good mark by Jarman. Terrific grab. I reckon he'll back himself here.
Goal kicking runs in the family, doesn't it, fellas? Although Jars this year hasn't been all that accurate. 5 goals, 14 for the year.
Realising
Rose and Fleming, and Pitt dropped into the hole, did it beautifully. Forces the ball towards the boundary line where Jarman flicks it forward. Hobbs now, the speedster, can take off. He's 26 years of age, and Ken Sheldon likes him. I can promise you one. Carter comes back inside. Davey claims him. What a good tackle that was. So Davey gets one back. The advantage allowed to fly as Jarman bounces away. 2 bounces. Look at the precision delivery. It's Cunningham. He takes off the little rover, the best and fairest last year. Look at the kick. It's a ripper. It's found Bassett. Where Port Adelaide are good. They push the ball out and give themselves some space. Carter with sheer strength gets through traffic. Pushes the ball towards centre half forward. Jarman and Borlase. It was Jarman, the defender this time. Harvey to Keating. The little
just needs to be accurate.
Sorry, Cam there. Coming through once again is Ashley. Pushed it up. Hahn couldn't take it. Davey has, and he will clear.
I would. You had a fair day, Jars. You had a fair season. You had a few boos on the day as well. The Port crowd loved you.
Nothing's changed regard to the Port Adelaide faithful. That will never change, and it is what it is. But it was again. It was everyone just had to play their role, and I understood that my role was to get the engine room going with young halves and JC and obviously get in the Eastie a bit because we lost Macca, so I obviously felt as the senior player to step up and knowing I had been best mate on the bloody bench waiting to come on. But I had some great support, across our half-backs with Toddy and Clemo before he got injured, and then James Tyson and Obba. But it was just a game, and there was a couple of moments there where I thought across half-back when I had the ball, I just wanted to make sure I hit the target because there was moments there where I thought, in Port Adelaide, as you know, you cannot let up against Port Adelaide because if they get a sniff, they know how to come back and play in grand finals because I've won, as we know. So I was just mindful of just making sure I hit the targets under pressure and then making sure we got the ball forward. But it was. Look, I can remember everything about the game, the build-up, the Norwood faithful, and just playing with some of these wonderful young men, and some of these boys didn't have an influence on the day, but again, that's what grand finals are all about. But you look at our back line: Davies, Bowman, Clemo, Pitt, Fleming, who should have been All Australian, and Jerry Dantoffia. Now, there's some wonderful talent there, and a great back six. We were very lucky.
Extremely attacking defence.
And that's what Pete encouraged, and that's what I loved about playing under Pete. He just wanted us to take the game on. And when you've got, like you said, our engine room was deep as. Like, if I dropped out, someone else just popped in, and if Rowe dropped out, then Macca dropped in, and it was just depth and Anthony Harvey. And Melrose McCormack was a big blow, and when we lost him because he was tough and brutal and scared the opposition. I could see fear in the opposition's eyes when he was around the ball. It was beautiful to watch.
No doubt. I think that we all know the McCormack CV of broken bones and stretcher jobs. He certainly was someone you stood taller around when you were playing with him. We're going to have a look at some highlights of yours in a minute, Rowe. Look, before we do, I just want to share one highlight, which I just think of all the highlights that we could show, I love this highlight of Roger James nailing the game. Well, nailing it, we're up by 12 goals when this happened. But how do you run towards goals, chased by 2 Port players, you somehow sell them the pup, and they run the other way? I don't know, only Roger James could do this. Roll the tape, Johnny.
Paulay's got it from Rowe and Smith. Steadies and deliver. Underneath that one, Brett James thumps it down. Treadway, where's he been? He was just terrific in the first and second quarters. Dantoffia forward. This is Roger. Roger the Dodger James, and boom. It's through. Roger gets his second. Well, it's raining goals for the Redlegs, and there's going to be a big celebration in the old town tonight. Hope you're enjoying this around Australia on ABC Sport.
And again, there's a situation at half-back where Norwood were able to win the 50-50 contest. The ball in, throw in, they were able to take it away. Port Adelaide, that has been their strength, but Norwood have really fought back well here today. And just...
That's just unbelievable, Rowie. How does someone... That's defying physics.
He was a prodigious talent.
He was a gift.
He was. He was
a natural gift.
I've heard football people say he's the closest thing to Darren Jarman with his movement, his skill, his leg and the whatnot. This is a young lad that when he came to Norwood as the younger brother to Brett, came out onto the football around just looking like he'd come off the bloody farm, which he did.
Off the apple orchard.
And set him in. It was deplorable how he was treated. Brutal. It was brutal. And Craigie did that. To then end up with the career he did, those James brothers, and there was 3 of them, the Apples boys we called them, unbelievable. Yeah. And I'll never forget the first half that Roger James played in a prelim against St Kilda for Port Adelaide to get them into that grand final. As good a half of football as you'd want to see from anyone. Great lads, the James boys. God love them.
Great Norwood people.
Great Norwood people. Great.
They are. And you know, like, here's the 97 beer mug, big glass. Yeah, beautiful. I'll fill this with
Sorry about the 97 cup.
Well, we won't go there. I'm running the show here. We might come to that later if you're lucky.
I have a funny story about Rowe's cup.
I didn't do the homework, but I recall doing this many years ago that, Peter, in that side that you coached, you had already over 1,000 AFL games from the likes of Jarman, Rowe, you know, even myself and Johnny managed to rack up a few in the day. And then going forward, the players that you coached on the day, like Tyson, Roger James, etc., racked up over another 1,000 in their career. So that team had over 2,000 AFL games in it.
Yeah, it's quite remarkable. And, you know, Brett James on the day was amazingly significant to the outcome. When Davies got cleaned up, he went and played half back. And we were probably in a little bit of trouble for backs at that stage. And Brett went from playing on ball to playing half back and, you know, didn't miss a beat. And that's the sort of player he was. As you guys said, he was totally selfless. And, you know, he was pretty dominant on ball, but he was very happy to go to half back and help out, get a berth amongst that famous back six for a little while. So there's a lot of talent. You know, Jars was obviously a man possessed. I've got to say, at the start of the season, when Jars came out, I thought he'd been in a pretty good paddock after he finished up at the Crows. And he said, "Don't worry, coach, it's okay. I'll get myself fit." And he wobbled off across the ground with Rowe in tow. And I know they got up early and ran all through pre-season. And you know, Jars got himself unbelievably fit. I remember the round one game we played Woodville at Woodville. Eagles at Woodville, and I think Jars had about 43 possessions, kicked 4 goals, and I thought it was the most dominant game I'd ever seen anyone play. He absolutely dominated, and I took him off with about 7 or 8 minutes to go, and made him sit on the bench for the last bit. He was absolutely filthy with me. I think he thought he was going to get 50 possessions and kick 5, but I said, "Jars, it's a long year. We've got to look after you, and I think you've done enough today, son."
You would have been filthy, Jars.
Mr. Jars.
I was with the coach, and I remember that the first time I rocked up the pre-season, and we were training at the Prince Alfred Old College ground where they play now, and we did some running, and it was embarrassing, and I felt sick in the guts after, and I apologised to Pete and Black Duck, and I said to Walkie, this is not on, and I'll never forget that conversation. Then I went up, and then I said to Claves, who's, you know, we all love, and I said, I'll never, ever, ever do that again. And when I come back, I'm going to be, you know, the fittest I've ever been. I was embarrassed the way I rocked up and the way, as a senior player, and Norwood gave me, you know, an opportunity after the way the things fell apart at the Crows at the end of '96. You know, Rhodey could have just said, nah, look, too much baggage, but they backed us in, and yeah, so, you know, I've always been grateful for what Peter Rhodes done for me in '97, absolutely.
Yeah, well, that's so true, so true. You certainly repaid us, Giles. Yes, Rowe.
Yeah, he worked hard. I know that firsthand. He got up every morning and ran his guts out. He was fit as a mallee ball. You mentioned Duck there. It's appropriate that we do mention him. He helped build this team, Black Duck, with Rhodey, and, you know, from halves to James Tyson to James West to JC. We lost him. He's the first we've lost. We lost him last year. It was a tragic loss. So rest in peace, Black Duck, and to his family, sorely missed. But he was an integral part to that '97 Premiership, to the build-up to it. And Rhodey, you'll testify to this. It's not clubs. Sorry, it's not individuals that win. It's clubs. And from our chairman to our president to our CEO to our coach to our captains, our joint captains, to the players, to the supporters.
And to our members and fans.
It was, we were never going to lose that. And I think Black Duck needs to take a lot of credit for that. I think, Rhodey, you'd agree?
Yeah, look, I mean, blokes like Dale and Paul McCormack and Tyson that were there before I arrived. I think the year I arrived, Johnny turned up and we got Simon Eastow. And so we brought a lot of players in from interstate, but, you know, we also recruited well within the SANFL. I think that the two of the master strokes were bringing in Jim West and then Obba. You know, I mean, Obba had been a pretty decent player at Sturt, but probably lost his way a little bit. He probably had a few, he had a few detractors in some of his attributes, but he had real speed and a desire to really run, which is probably the one thing we were lacking. And, you know, I always thought we get to Amy Stadium at the end of the year, we'd have to have enough speed. And, you know, we moved Dodgy, I think, from half forward onto the wing, put Obba on the other wing. And Glenn Rosser, you know, he loved wingman Glenn Rosser, so he was the one right behind that. And obviously getting Westy from Glenelg as well, who I hadn't seen play for quite a while. And, you know, Westy up forward was really important for us, and Obba on the wing. So Duck was very knowledgeable and very understanding. He was always a cool head, like the rest of us. I talked about my coaching group. You know, they could be a bit emotional at times, and you can always rely on Glenn to be the voice of reason in lots of ways. And he never got too emotional, and he was always very strategic. And I'd have to say, as a head of footy, whenever I went to him, he always helped out any way he could with any requests we made. So, you know, he was a very deep thinker and very strategic. But, you know, and like in the true Norwood tradition, in lots of ways, he was really selfish. You know, he never put himself out there. He always put his view across. He was very forceful at match committee. People wouldn't have understood how strongly he put his view, but you always knew that if it didn't go his way or you didn't agree with him, always knew he'd stand behind you when you walked out the door, which I think is not always the case with match committees. And I always appreciate that with Glenn, in that he certainly had a strong view and he put it across, argued his cases very well, but he never took it personally. And, you know, 50% of the time you take people's views, 50% you don't, because at the end of the day, the coach has got to make a decision. But, you know, Glenn, I always appreciated Glenn had my back all the time, and he was very strategic, and, you know, he was always thinking ahead. You know, the rest of us be worried about training that night or winning this week, but he was always thinking about the big picture, which, you know, it all came together in 96, 97 probably. You know, 96 we had a really good team, but we ran into a good Port team, and but 97, you know, we had a list that really should have won the premiership, and as I said before, we did win in the end, and it was probably relief at the end of the final siren.
Yeah,
well, here's the Black Duck.
Yeah, the Black Duck.
Here's the Black Duck.
The Black Duck.
The Black Duck.
A nice Barossa Shiraz. He'd appreciate that very much, Glenn, I've got to say.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna move on to the cheeky Tilly. You've got the cheeky Tilly there, Rowe, from our wonderful partners at Norwood, the Burge family, and sing out to Trent and Jessica Burge. Lovely product. We're all enjoying. Well, We're moving along a little bit. This has been a great chat, guys. We're going to show a few more highlights before we finish up. But I just want to mention a couple of other boys that were out there. Obviously, Stephen Pitt was just a great player for the club. Glenn Malloy had come back from Melbourne. You played with him at Melbourne, Rhodey. Did you cross paths?
Yeah, we played there for a little while.
Yep.
I'm realising now why I had got so much grey hair during that period. I think pity might have caused a fair amount of it, especially one night in the race against North Adelaide. And Glenn Malloy caused me a bit of grief as well, I've got to say. Having played with him, I understood him okay, but he wasn't the easiest bloke to coach, I'd have to say. Jars and Rowe and Johnny and Dale, you guys were a walk in the park compared to some of these other names you bring up.
It is. Well, Karma's got him because he looks like the wild man from Borneo now with big grey hair and grey beard. Molly does. So, and then you had the emergence of players like Scotty Bassett. Of course, James Tyson went on and had a great career at the Crows. We've talked about the James boys. But, we've got to sort of have a sing out there to another fella that we played a bit of footy with in Jerry Dantoffia. Of course, had a long career, and this was like the culmination of a great career. And you played with him, Rowe. You played with him, Jars. We'd all played with him. But, what have you got to say about Jerry Dantoffia, Rowe?
Well, he's just about built everything that I wanted him to build. Jerry was one of those, he never said much, but when he did, you listened. He made his actions do the talking. He was reliable as anything. God, he was hard. And determined and committed and better skilled than what people think. I was absolutely rapt that he got inducted into the Norwood Football Club Hall of Fame. He deserves it. He's a 200-plus game player, Premiership player, a B&F. He was one of my all-time favourites. There's no question about that. I gravitated to team men, and he was a team man. He's a bloody ripper, Jez, and he was meant to be on our hookup. Yeah. Jerry, yes, you can't earn any more money building houses, mate.
And Flemo, I've got to say about Jerry, every side needs a Jerry Dantoffia side. Every side, because you know what? He's consistent week in, week out.
Mate, you're so true. Down the back line, I tell you what, you talked about having McCormack around you. When you had Jerry around you, you were twice as good a back line as you would be without him. He was just so reliable. And Stephen Pitt was fantastic down there as well, like that. But before we move on to the last little package of highlights and call it a night, Jars, we haven't given a mention to our captain on the day, Sir Anthony. What's your recollection of Sir Anthony?
Oh, no. Sir Anthony Harvey, what a beautiful young man. I used to, you know what he is today? He is Forrest Gump. He just ran.
He just ran, didn't he?
A little love, just ran.
He was a running machine. He had a brother who could run a bit in the AFL. You would have played a bit against Jars.
I couldn't catch him, but he was our Forrest Gump, and he just soaked everything up. And what a lovely young man, and he just, he he just played on instinct. He played on his spirit, but he just had a massive engine, and it was just great playing with him. And he got crunched a few times, and I can remember Macca just warning the opposition blokes and Clacker, Rowe here saying, "Hey, ease up," because he wasn't the strongest midfielder we had in our team. But his outside run was critical and crucial for Rowe and Macca and I. But any time anyone got in there, and even for little JC, old bloody Macca and Clacker come flying in, and Melrose would be just saying, "I got his number. I got his number."
Didn't he call it up at some point down the track as well? And
I'd have to say Harves was a great foil for the rest of the side. I mean, all you other scoundrels, Harves, such a beautiful person, a lovely bloke, and his footy skills just suited what we needed. I mean, I talked about Tyson and Obba, but Harves was probably the running machine that we needed to complement the rest of the side. And the nicest bloke you'd ever meet, quiet, but a bit like Jerry. When he spoke, people listened, and we had enough loud mouths around him anyway, so we didn't need any more loud mouths. So
he got going. If you got a few bontons into him late at night, he got going, Harves.
And
you don't win premierships with bloody church mice, mate.
Have you
Yeah, I've had a few reds.
Yeah. And I tell you, the Barossa boy's good, isn't it?
Got hair.
Oh, look at that.
You got nothing. JC, take your head off. Take your head off. Rhodey, you look like you're at least 85. Judge has got nothing. Judge told me to keep my head because
Haven't you been able to get a haircut in isolation, Roy?
7 weeks without a haircut.
What do you like downstairs?
So, Rowie, I'll get Raph from Blades the Barber Lounge to look after you, mate. They're another club sponsor, so get their plug in there. But look, one last person before we finish up with some highlights. We've got a package of your highlights, Rowie. We're going to have a look at the Todd Davies bump, because I think we all agree that was just unbelievable.
The Todd Davies bump. Don't worry about me. Go straight to the Todd Davies bump.
We might do that. We might spin it around. But one last person to give a mention to, Elbows Clements. Elbows Clements. Johnny Cunningham. He wasn't a bad footballer either, was he?
Oh, loved him. Very sharp elbows. Angry man.
Yeah, angry man.
Very angry man. Very angry before the game. Very angry after the game. Just angry. Generally.
Just angry.
Yeah, he's an angry person. So
we love him though.
I love what I love about Clemo is that he's just that determined not to let his opponent get it.
Yeah.
Which was a huge asset for a very talented back line and a very attacking back line. But Clemo, if he got given a job, he stuck to it, and that was probably what Rhodey loved about him as a defender. I think he went on to play on the wing further in his career, but I think he was one of those hard-nosed half-backs, wankers, pain in the arse. He even annoyed his own teammates. That's how annoying he was. But he was a ripper. We love him.
Come to think of it, Jerry Berntocky had a big role down there to keep Fleming, Pitt, Bowman, Clements, and Davey all in line. He must have been flat out just coaching them.
It was like a Looney Tunes park down there.
Yes.
Well, you needed a good man for the job. We had one in Jerry, that's for sure. So let's have a look at Todd Davies' bump.
He really struggled in the second semi with the lack of fitness, but he's again continued to work and made the most of it. Like, full credit to him.
Thank you. Big body clash there between Tregenza and looked like Tyson or Obst. It was Davey from half-back flank.
It was Davey, and Davey comes in strong, bang. Oh, and they're both down. Now, Todd Davies knocked himself out in 2 finals last year and didn't play the sort of footy that he's capable of, and he might have done it to himself again today. Meanwhile, Jarman back with the ball at full forward. They're calling for the stretcher, and Bassett gets away the handball. Harvey held up in play, and Davey is wobbly on his feet, and Tregenza looks.
Daz, you mentioned it as your moment at the beginning of the chat, mate. Relive it. Just incredible courage by both players. But as you mentioned before, Todd Davies, he just had eyes for the ball, and he just did that time and time again. And on the big dance, on the big stage, he did it when it counted.
Well, that's what wins your grand finals. They're the moments you never forget. And Simon Tregenza, who we played a lot of footy with at the Crows, Clacker and I, Trigger was a wonderful outside wingman who was very dangerous, But both players were committed to the contest, but I could see, I was close to the area, and I could see Toddy, just his eyes, and it was that was that mentality we all had. We were never going to lose it for our coach, our captain who was suspended, our CEO, all our pillars, our sponsors. No one was going to knock us off that day. I could smell it when I walked into the change rooms. That whatever they throw at us, we will not lose this game today. And it was just the commitment and the love and the desire from all the boys. And Todd Davies put that bloody flag in the ground, and he set the scene. And I'll never forget that.
Yeah, so true, so true. Must have been when you see that, Rhodey, that commitment on the day. It must feel good in the coach's box.
Yeah, look, you never like to see players get carried off, I've got to say, but there was a certain element of, one of them getting carried off and one of us getting carried off, and Toddy had made a statement more than anything else. It was like we weren't gonna step aside. He put his body on the line like he always did. As I said, he was always one of the most popular players, and I think everyone walked a little bit taller after that. It did make us reshuffle the team. I think probably helped Rowe get a run in the midfield. We put James down back line, and the side didn't really miss a beat after that. But the statement that Toddy made was as important as anything else, I reckon.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And on the Tuesday when we were watching the replay at the brewery, Toddy was watching every second. And I said to him, "Why are you watching, mate? Come and have a beer. We're celebrating." He goes, "I can't remember the game. I want to see it for the first time." So, he literally couldn't remember the game. So that's how hard he hit. And look, what we might have a quick look at, Rowe. I know you don't want to look at yourself here, mate. But we've seen Jarman, we've seen Cunningham, we've got to see a bit of Rowe. Let's roll the tape.
Bring on Rowe.
Here we go.
Smith, the game really has slowed down now, realising that the margin may be too great for the Magpies to peg back. The 14-minute mark of this last quarter. Lord in charge. Here's Rowe, front of the pack. He's got a player in there who'll use him. Finds him. It's Harvey. Harvey plays on. Harvey goals. Lord have won the 1997 grand final.
Peter Rowe, you can see the joy on his face.
I just heard a few pops. Champagne bottles have gone and a few tops have gone.
Stephen Rowe, beautiful disposal. In this instance, picked out Harvey, who ran hard to the front of the square and kicked.
Bowman ends up with it from Pitt, sorry to say. So Bowman goes down the line. Ball bounce. Rowe comes in solid. Got support there by Keating. Keating takes it. The players on the lead. Rowe, who just came on this third quarter when Todd Davies went down. The heavy clash with Simon Tregenza. The ball's punched forward. Cunningham, who's been everywhere, had a sensational third quarter. Out to Eastall. Malloy, back to Rowe. Rowe, quick hands to Jarman. Jarman on the pass, kicks 10 handballs, 31 possessions, 7 marks.
Look at this.
It's come back in again. Rowe from behind!
Won't he love that, Rowe?
Well,
look at that. Look at the smile.
When he retells that tonight, it'll be 3 stories high. He actually took that one on top of the goalpost. That one sat on top of the goalpost and brought it down. Well, that's so the legend goes. And Peter Rowe liked that one too. Good on you, Rhodey. Then Ross are behind.
Great work. Rowe,
Yeah.
mate, you got into the team. You came on after half time. But tell you what, mate, you had a good day when you come on and you've got some memorable moments out of it.
Oh, look, like I said before, I was just blessed to be out there. The fact that it was there for Macca, it is what it is. It was a magnificent day. It was a magnificent day, and it's great to reminisce like this.
He deserved opportunity.
Maybe not. We haven't mentioned little Sujay Cook. Little Sujay Cook was a rover that hit the centre playing for the Crows, didn't he? And Lockie Bowman. Lockie Bowman was one of my absolute favourites. Oh God,
that's the problem when you name names, you always forget someone.
Yeah, did we mention Lockie?
Yeah, a couple of times, but let's give him a mention now because he was fantastic.
I love Lockie.
Took down Darren Smith, one of their big centre half forward, was great on the day.
Yeah. Good night, James. We're talking Nord here, so good night.
I should mention that. So we're all looking good in our Fortis and Priscilla tops as well, which has been a fantastic campaign for the footy club throughout the COVID crisis. And there's the stickers. Only sticker of its kind in the world, those ones, boys. So enjoy it. We got Cooper's Barossa boy joining us. It's been a great chat. Really enjoyed it. But we couldn't leave without having a look at the celebrations. And Jars, when we look at these celebrations, just to finish off for the night, you're pretty doing a bit of dancing and kissing to the crowd and showing the tummy, and we'll get you to comment on those afterwards, mate. But before before we do that, I'm running the show. We've got a little highlight package that we haven't shown yet. Roll the tape, Joey.
Uh-oh, this is the Dale Fleming highlights, is it?
Yeah.
And it goes forward. The exciting player in Peter Burgoyne. Just inside the centre square. Takes a good, safe mark. Will go back. Looking for Ambrose up forward. Goes one way, goes the other way. Chips it up in front of Ambrose. Opportunity here. A good, safe mark. Taken by number 5 for Nord. And Dale Fleming.
Very much underrated plot of the game. Been terrific.
No question, this is a battle of defences. Dantoffia, short. Fleming running down the field hard. Marks it at centre-half forward. I think he was looking to play on now. Does so successfully. Dantoffia from defence. Pushes it along to the square. Oh, what a kick from Jerry. I think he might have put it through. He has, says the umpire.
Gives across to his captain and Ginniver. Ginniver's got the running. Ambrose out in front, but a great mark from behind by Dale Fleming.
He's playing just as well as Fegan at the other end, Mark. They flick it wide and then run it. That's what they've done this time. Carr drills it in long to Fleming, who's been stellar in the defensive zone. Just rubbers one across the line.
To get them home, Eastor. Thrown over the top by Treadray. Again, the ball's put forward. Smith's there. Comes to ground. Burgoyne really hasn't been sided all day. Couldn't quite get his boot to the ball. He's only had the 12 possessions, but after 2 sensational finals that we saw early from Burgoyne, really has been well held this afternoon.
Wow, what magnificent highlights they were. How are they getting there, Joey? Did you sneak them in, did you?
All Fleming. Some very talented editing person has found those highlights.
Good boy, Joe. That's why I brought him, because I didn't want to push the button myself. I won't comment on my own highlights like you lot, but Rhodey, without going into detail, I wasn't a very good boy a couple of weeks earlier. You had to discipline me and then bring me back into the side. So I'm glad I could repay the faith on the day.
As I often say, everyone's got a story. Rowie was Jars was too fat at one stage. Johnny had done his knee. You had a little misdemeanor. Rowie, you were the only perfect citizen all the way through, Rowie.
No.
I love you, Roddy. You know that. You know.
I did put you back in the team.
I love you.
You suck.
So boys, that's pretty much it. But what we are going to go out with, right, is a look at the final siren, and of course, who ends up with the ball? The final siren, Johnny Cunningham.
Well, the one
best on ground. Well deserved to have the final touch. Then we'll see the Premiership celebrations out on the ground. Macca coming out, you giving him a hug, Rowie, and us all getting around each other. Of course, back in the day, we had Billy as our sponsor. There's the Premiership jumper, and we all whacked the Billy's caps on. So there's a plug for you, Billy. Of course, Belford's a very good partner in the Norwood Football Club as well. And then we'll see us get the cup. Rhodey's presented with the cup. Mackie gets up there, and then the lap of honour, and Jarman just cuts loose. Let's have a look at it, and then we'll come back for last comments.
And was put on the wing, centre wing, and really has, I think, played a reasonable game. And Tim Ginniver, I think, clearly their best, along with Fegan.
It's all over. Port Adelaide have lost, and Norwood are the winners. 73 points, the final margin. And Norwood, 19-12, 126, have defeated Port 7 goals, 11, 53 as we go down to Peter Road.
Thanks for that, DP. Peter, well, it's been a long time coming, but I'm sure it feels sensational.
It does, it's been a very long day. That last quarter's gone about 2.5 hours by me, I reckon, but the boys have been magnificent, right from the start there. They were switched on when they got here today, and I was really confident going into the game, more confident than maybe I should have been, but certainly they showed up when they got out there, they could do it.
Well, after that second semi-final, there was a bit of a question mark. Port Adelaide seemed to lift, and after Gary McIntosh incident earlier this week, obviously the boys just dug deep and pulled out a sensational performance.
Yeah, maybe we needed those 2 hard games, the second semi and the preliminary, and certainly we're at our very best today, which is, you work very hard all year. We played some good footy during the year, and you'd be disappointed if you couldn't play your best footy at the end. Which
I tell you what, there wasn't too many passengers today. They all put in.
No, I reckon we certainly haven't had a bad player. I think everyone's had a go. The blokes on the bench are pretty sore now, but they've done a wonderful job.
How long do you think Stephen Rowe's going to talk about that, Mark?
I think for a while. I think he's going to officially retire about now, so he'll live on that forever.
Good on you, Roddy. Thanks for that. Well done. Coach of the successful Norwood.
The acting captain for the 1997 Grand Final was Anthony Harvey. I think it'd be remiss of me not to mention the man who couldn't play today, Gary McIntosh. Come to the dais and present the 1997 Premiership Cup.
So the final score here in favour of the Redlegs. They've run out victors this afternoon in the 1997 SANFL Grand Final. 1912 126 to a 7-11 53. On behalf of Ken Sheldon, Mark Nailey, Rob Popplestone and all our crew, thanks for your company right around Australia. We hope you've enjoyed it and we hope to see you back here next year.
Beautiful work there, Jars. What? Just a little letting it all out. Was there someone in the crowd you were waving to?
No, look, end of the day, mate, it was party time, and it was good. It was you know what, Flemo, it's about entertainment, and you know I get called all sorts, but the fans come back. They want more when you give them some love like that, and that was just my appreciation to the Norwood faithful who were very supportive and I do get a little bit excited from time to time, but at the end of the day, we were the best side in 1997 by an average of 10 goals. And we showed that on the last day when it really mattered. And thank you to everyone that was involved. It was just a year that I'll never forget, and I'm really very grateful for the Norwood Footy Club.
Yeah, no, absolutely, mate. And thank you for such a great year and obviously performing on the big day and helping us win a premiership. Rowe, you're out there running around on the victory lap with your little girl. That must have felt special.
Yeah, well, Gemma would have been 3. Tori was just born. Look, it was. We were just talking where those highlights were on, and Jars and I pretty much knew that was our last game. I think we were pretty clear in our head. I was just saying to Jars while those highlights were on, here's a book of stiff shit. Jars is the only player in the history of the game that's retired after winning a McGarry medal. He was unbelievable. But you know what? You go out on a high, that's what it's all about. Can I just say to Grant and Helen Burge, they were celebrating that night. I had 1 or 2 Reds with them. Thank you, Grant and Helen, to share that in 97. Thank you for your son now for this magnificent wine that he makes, the Barossa boys. To the Coopers, you mentioned Villiers Balfours now, but back in my day it was the Villiers. Sponsors make it all happen, so massive thank you. And Grant and Helen, God bless you, love you. You've been supporters of Norwood the whole years I was there, and I remember that night and remember you, and thank you for your great son because he makes a great red.
Yep. Well said, Rowe. Trent and Jess carrying on the tradition with Barossa Boy, the Birds family, fantastic friends and supporters of Norwood, and just a beautiful product to go with that. So, Johnny, mate, we saw you up there on the dais, collecting the medal. Family was there. You've had a good day. You've come back, won a premiership after a knee reconstruction. Doesn't get any better, does it, mate?
Oh, look, yeah, I suppose individually it was a magnificent day, but I was just so keen to be involved in that team because I could see from the start of that year it was going to be a magnificent team. And yeah, we had the disappointment of 96, which really was burning. It was burning in me, even though I missed, did my knee. I could see all the guys. It was driving us, from the moment I just kicked that goal in the 96 prelim. We were burnt and we were hungry to make amends for that day, and it never stopped until that siren went in 97. And I must admit, I think what people need to know about Rowe and Jars is that they play the clowns. They're funny guys. Always play that role. But that season, those two were enormous driving factors behind the scenes. Training standards, commitment to training, commitment to the quality of training, and even their support of me coming back was enormous. So they played the clowns, but those two were enormous, serious driving forces behind it, and I think they should be commended for that. And here's to Rowe and Jars.
Oh, Jason,
you two knuckleheads.
Knuckleheads.
Now, I might let.
Cheers, knuckleheads.
I might let the coach himself have the final word. Rowe, Brady?
Oh yeah, I would agree with Jars, with JC's comments. There's no doubt that Jars and Rowe and Macca, I suppose, were the driving force behind the group, and there was a lot of young players that were keen to listen and were probably right for the picking in lots of ways. But those three really drove the standards, and they enjoyed a good time, but they trained bloody hard, and they put themselves on the line every weekend. And as I said, Jars had as good a season of footy as I ever saw to win the medal. And still to this day, I wouldn't say this publicly, but I suppose I am now. I can't believe someone drew with him. I mean, whoever, I think it was someone from
Brady Atkinson.
Brady Atkinson from Sturt. Now, all I can say is he must have had a bloody good year. That's all I can say. But I do remember, and talking about Grant Burge, and the feeling was a little bit of relief. I remember going back to the club afterwards. We did presentations, and a couple of clowns got up on stage and made speeches and all that sort of stuff. But I remember sitting back in the Redlegs Club afterwards with Neil Baum, Wally Miller, Glenn Rosser, and more than one bottle of Grant Burge Red, I reckon. And it was probably the most satisfying memories in footy, because even though Wally had been chairman of selectors the year before, he'd taken a bit of a back seat, but he was still a driving force behind it all. And Barmy had, of course, coached me at Melbourne at the end of my career, and he was the one who really pushed me to come to Norwood and really recommended me. And to sit down with Glenn and Wally and Barmy with a bottle of very, very good Grant Burge Red, I think at the time was probably the highlight. I had given you guys a fair head start on the celebrations, but I do think as a coach I did catch up over the next couple of days to some degree.
No, that's for true. That's for sure. Well, I can tell you why Jars didn't win the Magarey by 20 or 30 votes. It's because I was taking plenty of votes off him. That's probably why, Roach.
Stop it.
You did, mate. You did. I'm happy for that.
As a fullback ever got a vote in the history of the game?
No.
Well, Johnny, it's lucky you did your knee, otherwise you might have taken plenty off him. I'm sure Wally did along the way. But look, fellas, it's been great chat. We planned to be half an hour, 45 minutes. I think we've been 2 hours, but there was so much to talk about. It's great to reminisce and look back. And, you know, on Friday night, this game, the 97 Premiership, will be the feature game of the week. Stream live from the Norwood Football Club Facebook page. We've been averaging 7,000 views each week when we've been looking back at games. I reckon this week after this promotion, we might double that. So if you get a chance, have a look, enjoy the moment, crack another bottle of Barossa Boy, get a slab of Cooper's, sit back, reminisce, and yeah, what a great day it was. Thanks very much, everyone. Enjoy it. We'll talk soon.
No worries, guys.